Hello, guys. Let's do the question mark here. Sure, let's do this. Damn it! Damn, all the sparks were just not placed very nicely for me. Cool. It's probably been my best run so far. Getting a lot of sparks. Just need a shot. Oh, there's a bunch of stuff down here. No. Out of the momentum. also do not know if there's an actual queue today, but because of SNL on Friday, where I played some matches, I decided not to stream yesterday because I was just tired after playing Smite all day that day. Didn't want to skip another stream day, even though I am still kind of tired today. But I also want to play. Let's try and flip it. Okay. I'm still not too sure what all the stats do, to be honest, but or how much they really impact the flow of the game. Well, let's see. Boost, energy. On spark pickup, gain 1 energy. Oh, it has a cooldown? Huh. Okay. Triggered. Oh, okay, I see. Also, why am I ADC? Let me see if I can trade here. I really do not want to play ADC. It's just sadness. Might just play Zeus then. Nope. They picked Zeus. Fuck me, man. What a nightmare.
Select your god.
Wheeling is on the table, so on her might be kind of rough. Artemis is still there, but I don't know if I want to play it. I'll just do on her. Just hope for the best. Alright. Let's see. I'll just try and go for the most expensive one, I suppose. Grab that. Actually, I have money for all of them, I just realized. I have so much money. I guess fuck it. There we go. Clean. Nice. Okay, let's get into it. Probably gonna be a beat game. Dude, they have such an annoying comp. And I'm against Dude 9. Calvin, well, this sucks, man. Like, what do you even build? I have absolutely no idea what you build in ADC right now.
Fabulous choice.
I guess I will just do this weird hybrid ADC build.
Yes.
My hands are not warm enough to play ADC right now.
Minions have spawned.
Spectacular.
Hey, do those always spawn early? And I'll take an extra 3 gold.
Your middle tower is under attack.
That's done.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Enemy missing. Your right tower is under attack. Meet my blade.
Dude, the Baron anti-attack speed is so annoying. At least we got him with us, and I think Ares might be getting. Yeah, okay, that's good. We baited long enough. Dude, my hands are really cold. I'm definitely struggling hitting some monos. Gotta warm up a little bit. Dude, what is happening in solo?
An enemy has been slain. Nice job. Too bad. Sorry.
Oh my.
Beware the shifting sand.
No, all comp is real scary, so I gotta be careful. When I don't have beats, I can only really get out of one of them.
Slain an enemy. Double kill.
You are an impressive fighter.
Your right tower is under attack. Beware the shifting sand.
Yeah, it stood 9 the Cupid. And hello, Nate.
Enemy spotted.
Killing spree. Killing spree. Shut down.
Attack. Ultimate is ready.
An ally has been slain. Slain an enemy.
Where's Dude now? Ares is going ham on him. Having a rough time. I got it back. I have so much gold.
Under attack. An ally has been slain. Your middle tower is under attack.
Damn, he yanked it real fast. I was pressing it. I think it's better he gets it, so I think that's good.
Defend.
Like, what do I even build, man? I don't know what ADC's build.
Enemy spotted.
Your
I think
middle
I'll just do the
tower is
bruiser
under
build
attack.
and try and mix in some crit towards the end of it, if we even get that far. I think I'll just do brackies and skins, berserkers, something like that.
Enemy spotted. I'll attack.
Enemy missing. Enemy spotted.
I mean, that's Oh, okay.
Sorry.
I thought he had beats. Yeah, I mean, there they are. I was 100% sure he was gonna beat that stuff, which is why I didn't go for it. But if I would have went for it, he would have just beatsed it. You know, that was the weird dilemma there.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Enemy missing.
An enemy has been slain.
Attack the golden
Enemies
fury.
in right lane.
Beware the shifting
Oops.
sands.
Bit off the mark there.
Mighty jungle now.
Enemy ultimate down.
It's all right, Nate. At this point, I'll just go for the old patch build or whatever. Like, it's still fine, a fine build, but it's definitely worse for objectives. I mean, I'm a solo main. I know this build better than I know the crit lifesteal devos or whatever build you're going with these days.
Enemy missing middle.
An ally has been slain.
Beware the shifting sands.
The pyroman.
Double kill.
The enemy team has destroyed the pyroman. Your middle tower is under attack. Your right tower is under attack. Killing spree.
Okay.
I will be right back.
Yeah, I suppose I can just do Ixie. I don't have to go Berserkers. You actually go Dominance these days? I thought Dominance was ass. Actually, no. 50 Strength? Doesn't actually seem that bad. It's still a weird item, though. The 200 mana in the mana region is interesting.
An enemy has been slain.
Beware the shifting sands. Beware the shifting sands.
Slain an enemy.
No Impale. Or Pillar, I should say.
An ally has been slain. Killing spree.
Pillar would have been nice just to block. For the Baron ult.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Actually, I don't want to back this still.
An ally has been under attack. Attack the Gold Fury!
Just what I needed. On my way.
Be careful!
Let me just get rid of you real fast.
Killing spree!
Uh-oh. Potential blood fight.
Enemy missing left.
An ally has been slain.
Okay. Excellent work.
Enemy spotted. Enemy spotted.
The enemy team has destroyed the Pyromancer. Your middle tower has been destroyed. Your middle tower is under attack.
Beware the haunting stab. My fury. Unstoppable.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Dude, how do they not go on any ward? That's crazy. They all just came from the same path. Wild.
Rampage!
So sad.
Damn. That fight they lost so hard and right really just ended up biting us in the ass there. This doesn't look that bad though. You can absolutely just go ham here.
Shut down! Attack Fire Giant!
On my way.
Just finished XC as well. This could be pretty decent.
An ally has been slain.
Beware the shifting sand. Beware the shifting sand. He has a mighty jump now. Gank right lane. Beware the shifting sands. Beware the shifting sands.
Slain an enemy. Your team has destroyed a right enemy tower. An ally has been slain. The Pyromancer has arrived. Attack Fire Giant!
Beware the shifting sands.
Killing spree! Your team has destroyed the Pyromancer.
Beware the shifting sands.
An enemy has been slain.
Let's get Demon Blade now. Get some early crit. I guess it's not early. It's probably now where I should be putting it.
Your team has destroyed a middle enemy tower.
Beware the shifting sands.
The instant Ymir ult is crazy how much damage it does, man. The base of just the ultimate damage is wild. You can just ult and still do your job as Ymir full damage as long as you just get your ult off before you die. And they group up like that. Like, my god. 614 with an instant Ymir ult. We could do this, but we need someone to split in mid as well. Not that it matters now. I'm also only level 17, all things considered. I've just been rotating along.
Your team has destroyed the Gold Fury.
Let's finish Demon Blade.
More fury for my spear. Fabulous choice.
Yeah, I mean, Cube is the same level as me. He's been farming while I rotated and did stuff.
The Pyromancer has arrived. Your right tower is under attack.
Beware the shifting sand.
Killing spree. Attack Fire Giant.
Beware the shifting sands.
Slain an enemy. Double kill.
Okay.
Killing spree. Attack Fire Giant.
On my way.
Random Ymir appeared. They don't even need me for this. I could have taken the buffs.
Your team has destroyed the Fire Giant. Right enemy Phoenix.
Beware the shifting sands. Beware the shifting sands.
Your team has destroyed a left enemy Phoenix.
I wanted to kill, but
Okay.
ending is probably good. It might just be because I actually have good servers these days, but Honor actually felt kind of clean to play. More than I try usually when I played him. I always felt Impale was just so incredibly delayed. That just felt good, honestly. Impaling went off when I pressed it. What is this? What is that icon? Oh, it's like an NPC. Okay.
Huh? Hey! Aha!
Noted. Not really sure what the NPC interaction actually do. It's gotta do something. Oh shit, we're giving Bari? We're giving Bari, huh? Bye, Nate. I'm not sure what was happening in chat. Why did we dodge this one? Context? I missed it. Restore health. Do I have any lost health? I don't think I do. Energy. 100 sparks. Wait, why would I do that? Doesn't it cost 620 sparks? So I can get 100 sparks? That doesn't seem like worth it. There's gotta be something else to it. Wait, we seem really stacked on this team. Who the hell are we against? Before I go into a potential boss here, I think I'm gonna pick my things.
Select your god.
I do feel like we should have banned the F4 here, I'm not gonna lie, boys. They specifically banned Odin and Zobek for this. I'll do a Hades game, actually. If we're against Aphrodite, I actually want to play something where I feel like I can maybe kill her as well. Despite her annoying ass ultimate. Hello, Zav. My goat. Alright, see what the fuck this is. What am I fighting? And how? Ah, a robot. How do I attack it? Well, just... Okay, I just run into it. Got it. I figured it out. I was 100% sure I was gonna take damage for doing it though. But I get the gist. Oh, what the fuck is this? Ooh, there we go. Bonk. Cool. Like the idea. Cool. Yeah, no worries, Nate. Don't you worry about it. Alright, I'll let it stay on this continue screen. I don't know if it's gonna start something once I go back out. So this is a pretty good lobby, actually. I like what I'm seeing. I'm gonna... Oh no, did I have a wheel X? No, my life is over this game. I can't play the game. Dude, is this a tank Hades situation? Maybe it is. Just for safety. Is that an Afro mid though? It is. At least it's gonna be a full damage Afro, not a tank Afro. 4 hours to starter. Was it worth it, Nate? Was it worth it? Don't worry, then you can stay in my stream, right? Watching me play is definitely the same as playing yourself. Sorry for coughing, I don't know. Not really sure why I'm coughing. Hopefully I'm not getting sick. What tournament is he gonna play? Is there like an official tournament going today? I don't know. Or is it just SNL? Or like, what's happening? SLU? I have no idea what that is, man. I'm so behind, I guess, on everything tournament related. I just don't know what the fuck is happening. Absolutely no idea. Oh, it's an Aladdin solo. He's level 2. Oh, he doesn't have blue, I see. For a while, I was very confused on how people did this, how they were level 2. It's simply because they let the jungle finish off the buff, and they just leave. So that they can make it to 3 creeps, because usually you only get 2. It's very hard to make it. You have to clear that buff so fucking fast to make it. before the first creep dies. But
Your right tower is under attack.
I mean, they aren't spawning yet, right? He was already here. I guess he was just checking. But yeah. Pretty sure they aren't supposed to spawn until 110 or 20, but sometimes they spawn way before. I've seen that shit a few times now. What the?
Your
The
right
fuck was
tower is
that?
under attack.
Invisible as wall. Oh, it's NA, I see. Gotcha. That makes sense then. Like, EU tournaments is one thing. I will not know about those, but usually people will be asking me, like, are you playing in this? And I'll usually be, what the fuck is that? And then people explain it to me. If it's NA, I will probably definitely not know what it is. I'm happy I hit level 5, but I'm sad that I beat because I thought she was level 5. That is a bit tragic on my end. Wasn't sure if he was gonna try and steal my blue, but I had to risk it. Now that they know I don't have beads and ult, I'm definitely a target. And I'm gonna need to chill. Sit the fuck back. Just mid at the moment though.
An enemy has
Big.
been slain.
Huge.
Right back, you rock.
That was out of this world!
Hello, Achilles. Good to see you.
An enemy has been slain.
Just gonna farm until my beats are back up. I'm too much of an easy target for the Wheelix this early. Granted, if I finish Soulstone, I think I can actually fight. So I will do that just now. Soulstone, Soul Gem. Been playing too many fucking Souls legs. Got souls on my mind.
Enemy missing left.
Attack right leg.
Slain an enemy.
Rock.
We don't want to fight. We don't really want to do this. Like, I had no reason to go for Aladdin there.
Enemy spotted.
Should have waited a bit with the Fenrir jumping over, unfortunately, but that's fine.
Enemy missing.
Hermano Mera, help!
Okay.
I don't know, I might just go damage this game. Like, why is Medusa here?
Your left tower is under attack.
Was this a 5-man rotation? It was. At least I did get the Relix with me. And she stays behind, which is good. We got the kill though. Yeah, Aphrodite did.
Your left tower is under attack.
Also prefer Aphro just getting the kill over Aladdin. Because this matchup will not be fun if I fall behind. It's just gonna poke the shit out of me. It's gonna do that inevitably anyway though. I do think for the sake of this game though, with Afro, April on Afro as well as Kai on this Aladdin, I might go defense. At least one, like a Genji's or something else.
Attack.
I'm not actually sure what item would be nice on Hades. Could maybe even do Predwin just for the cooldown as well.
An enemy has been slain.
Cooldown is underrated on Hades. That shit's nice.
An enemy has been slain. Double kill.
Missing left. Enemy missing left.
Killing spree.
This happened.
Just TV back. It's like I never left.
An enemy has been slain. Your right tower is under attack.
It's almost worse only getting one rock than no rock. Like, where's the other one? Who took only one? What are you doing?
The pyro has arrived.
Thank you.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Whoa.
Your team has destroyed the gold force.
Damn it, man. That was such a badly timed dash. I was like, I'm fine. Like, Aladdin and Awilix I don't think can kill me. Afro, though, I'm pretty sure fucking can. Mainly because of the stun. Alright. I think I will just get defense here.
Your left tower is
And double beats might not be a bad idea considering their comp. But fuck it. I think I will just do Genji's.
On my way.
That Genji's cooldown is so tasty.
Tower is under attack.
Specifically the passive ability on it.
An enemy has been slain.
Be careful, right?
Double kill. Killing spree.
Rocks. I actually have more rocks than I thought I had. I know Wheelix and Aladdin are both in range. I'm safe. Just jump over.
No problem. Retreat.
Enemy missing!
Your team has destroyed a right enemy tower. Upon us. Shut down. Your right tower is under attack.
Enemy missing left. Enemy ultimate down. Enemy spotted.
I'll just have to leave this.
Rampage.
You can catch a star.
It's not really worth fight. Probably could have taken it because Aladdin is pretty far away, but didn't really know that at the time. I gotta ward more, I think. They're definitely spending a lot of time trying to take away stuff on the left side, considering we're winning so hard on the right.
Be careful in the jungle!
Which is good, but it does suck a bit for me that they're just controlling my lane over here now. It's back for this Genji's. If I'm gonna get 3-man ganked, it's gonna be at least by 3 magicals, so this does help quite a bit.
Your left tower is under attack.
Enemy missing.
Shut down.
Sorry about that!
Oops.
You have slain an enemy.
Nice job.
Enemies incoming! Enemies incoming left!
No problem.
It is a problem, actually. I didn't I saw Afro going back to mid, and I was like, I guess they're not coming after all. I was wrong. That was a Ymir, and then the Wheelix as well. But at least that saved my beats, I guess. Using them would definitely not have saved me.
Your team has destroyed the Gold Fury.
Enemies at the fire giant.
More wards. I still have one actually. Don't need to buy another one.
No problem.
Pretty low on damage so far with the Aladdin build, but that shit's gonna do a lot of damage once it gets more power. I do need some pen as well, actually, on my end. Either that or more rocks. And I'm leaning to more and more rocks.
Enemy spotted!
An enemy has been slain. Your middle tower is under attack. Your left tower has been slain. Your middle tower is under attack.
Ah, that
Your
sucks, man.
left tower is under attack. Curses. An ally has been slain. Enemy spotted. I'll gank left lane.
On my way.
Enemy spotted. Your left tower is under attack. Your middle tower is under attack. An enemy has been slain. Your middle tower has been destroyed.
The Afro Ymir combo running around is definitely rough to deal with. That is... Oh, it's a squishy Ymir though. I do feel like my power is a bit lower now that I have Genjis though. The rocks are not having a big enough impact.
On my way. Gank middle lane.
On my way.
Killing spree.
You get them! We gotta get the Afro more than anyone else.
Slain an enemy. Double kill. Killing spree. Your team has destroyed the fire giant. Your right tower is under attack. Enemy spotted.
Chase the enemy.
Your right tower has been destroyed. Your team has destroyed the pyromancer. An enemy has been slain.
Attack the gold fury.
Your team has destroyed a middle enemy tower. An enemy has been slain.
Such a thing.
I'll go grab this tower.
Your team has destroyed a middle enemy tower. Your team has destroyed a middle enemy phoenix.
I'll just grab around, I guess.
Your team
I think we're
has
far ahead
destroyed
enough
the
for me to
gold
be a big
building.
greedy on my building now. With 420s, their highest is 18, so.
Your left tower is under attack.
Be careful, right? Enemy spotted.
Your team has destroyed a right enemy tower.
Group up.
That's big to getting F-hold for that. Bow and arrow ADC here. Can't really poke.
Your team has destroyed a left enemy phoenix. An enemy has been slain. Double kill. Killing spree.
Hello, Noctura. God damn it. I don't know why I'm coughing.
Victory.
What are the difference between these two? What is excuse me, what's completing the shard do? Keep running, complete shard. I guess I'll keep running. Not too sure what those two things do. Oh, I think that's one complaint I do have about this game is that it doesn't seem to. It's obviously not very hold handy, which is good. I think that's better than it is worse, but I feel like I don't know any fucking mechanic. Like, there's not a whole lot of tutorial stuff popping up saying like what things do when you press it. Like, I don't know the difference between keeping going and keeping running here and just ending the shard. Like, those two things don't make any sense to me. How would I know? Oh. This was not the layout I thought it was. Gotta get more momentum then. I think this game's awesome in general though. I'm very happy with it. Oh boy. This seems quite dangerous. made it though. I think we had an argument a few weeks ago about Merlin being dog shit. I mean, every mage is bad at the moment, so that's usually my biggest argument for why I think Merlin is as bad as he is at the moment. But, yeah, we probably did. I still stand by it, though. I still think Merlin is kind of bad. I've grown to appreciate the aspect more, though. I think the aspect is actually kind of neat. And not that bad. He's indeed very bad. Yeah, I mean... I don't think it's on him that much, though. As I already said, like, I think most of it is just that mages are very, very underwhelming at the moment. Like, look at Acne. I'm not scared of an Acne either. For the same reason. It's not like Acne's kid is bad. It's not like... Like, he was decent in the mage meta, you know? Problem is just all the mages just don't feel to do a whole lot of damage at the moment. And that's because we're living in a tank meta, where tanks are just a bit too powerful. I think Agile is more than Merlin as well, yeah. I do think Aspect Merlin, though, actually has a pretty decent chance. If anything, maybe in solo. I don't think he stands a chance against like top solos like Gebrak and like Odin and shit, but like Aspect Merlin with like a Phoenix Shield and some good lifesteal. Like I met Nika doing that stuff, and I can see some pretty good potential in it. I played it myself in just the casual, just to get a feel for it. I actually kind of enjoyed it too, because you can just keep throwing out abilities. Your cooldowns are so low with that aspect that you can actually make use of item procs because of it. I don't think the random ability stuff is that bad to deal with, personally. Oh my god, there are so many of these. Goddamn. And I think that's kind of what makes it fun. It is definitely the RNG of RNGs in terms of aspects, but I feel like that's still kind of fun to me. I don't know. I'm banning. I don't want to play Cabragan, man. Get it out. The thing is, though, with the build I have in mind, you only have, like, your ultimate is on like a 3 or 4 second cooldown. That barely makes a difference. In terms of, like, what the RNG thing is. You just throw out random shit every 3 or 4 seconds, and you're going to be super useful as a result of it. Not to mention you have a knock-up on your ultimate. That's super useful. Just for disruption is a big AoE knock-up. Which is why he might work better almost as a frontline than as a mage.
Select your god.
I really do like the aspect, I'm not gonna lie. I don't want them to change it. I think it's so much fun. I need to think about what I want to play here, actually. Might be Aladdin solo again. I kind of feel playing Hercules, but into Aladdin I don't want to give him something where I have a weak early, which I definitely have on that dude. Herc early is so ass. Mulan. Same idea. I don't want to give her a good early. Maybe it's just a Mordred situation as always. Mordred does seem kind of tasty here. The thing is, though, I'd rather want a really weird but kind of like decent aspect than just a bad weird one like Sobex. Sobex is just straight up bad, and it changes the one really good thing about him. You don't want to remove the plug, and if you want to remove the plug, you gotta give him some other way to play. And dude, that wasn't it. You don't want to give him a push. His kit is just not built around that stuff, unless you kind of change how the push works. No, I thought it was past it. Suck. That sucks. I'm running out of health. This is not good. This fucking map over soon. I'm in game. Guess I need to pause it. I've been trying to go back to Bluestone for Mordred. I actually think it feels a bit better than Warriors does right now. And it's probably purely just because of the extra MP5 as well as HP5 you get. Warriors is definitely good for trading, and I do think it's way better late game, I think. Just because of the big chunk of damage you can get out of the passive from it. But my god, is this way better for the laning phase. Who are we against? It's April on the Aladdin this time. Wait, what am I against then? Mulan, okay. I do think right now, though, they shouldn't touch any of the mages. They should touch the items on mages. You don't want to overbuff a mage, kind of like what they did with Cabrakan now. They overbuffed Cabrakan in a state where all tanks were bad anyway, and then they buffed all the tank items, and look where that got us. Now Cabrakan is just nasty. You don't want to buff a character before you buff all their items. I think one of the issues is, like, they keep doing that though. They keep nerfing, nerfing the wrong things, I should say. I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of it, we just go back to a meta where we swap so heavily in one direction. Like, we literally went from, like, tank meta to then full-on mage meta, then back to tank meta. Like, instead of just keeping it, you know, in the middle. We gotta just fucking keep it in the middle. Oh, it started with 2. Interesting.
No. Your middle tower is under attack.
Take this jungle buff.
I'll leave the rocks for now. I want to get this. I'm in a very good spot for this matchup, though. Mordred is super good into Mulan with her low-ass mobility.
Your middle tower is under attack.
eternally by my side. Triple kill! Killing spree! I would have you eternally by my side.
Calvin diff. And we just all... Dude, I got stuck in the wall a bit at the end there. That was weird. It's like the game couldn't figure out if I was going into the wall or not. I just fucking sat there. I was trying to go back into the wall so that I could last a bit longer there.
On my way.
An ally has been slain.
Unfortunate. Don't really have my Sunder on my turn baiting here is a great idea.
Your left tower is under attack.
Surely, Achilles, in case he invades, is not level 5 yet. He is level 5. Oh. Good to have it anyway. Hello Hansen, good to see you, man. I just want them to find a place where they're happy with items at the moment, Nectura. I want them to find a place where they're happy with items and then start balancing gods. Because right now there's so many shifts in items all the time that you're just shifting the meta completely every time you do that.
Your middle tower.
And I think that's one of the reasons why the meta changes as much as it does, and it's really, really not good for the game.
Missing right.
An ally has been slain.
Wait, Mulan isn't left? Oh, dude, he's just giving up at this point then. Dude's level 4.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Dude, once again, who's taking one rock? Who is it? Oh, never mind, I just spawned. They're excused. Yeah, no worries, Nectora. I'm obviously focused on the game as well, so my responses are pretty slow as well. Don't have my ult now, but just gonna go to this.
Has been slain. Your left tower is under attack. An enemy has been slain.
Thanks. Stay here. Follow me.
No problem.
I'm really looking forward to the next 3. Like, they actually something that benefits me. Next one is Cerberus, after that it's Guan Yu, and then Apollo. And, you know, Apollo may not be a solo, but in my case he will be. He's just one of my favorite gods, period. And he's one of the few ADCs that has consistently been a good solo laner. Well, quote-unquote good. He's definitely, he has a certain play style when you put him into solo. I've tried to make it work many times. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But overall, he is just a lot of fun.
It's ready. Sorry.
Oh well. Enemy missing right. Your right tower is under attack. Killing spree.
Sorry.
Your left tower is under attack.
Feel the sting of steel. In the name of the steel.
You have slain an enemy.
Remain.
Damn. He could play the game, you know? Good. He just doesn't want to anymore. I want to get a big heal out of this. Then potentially rotate.
Shut down. Die. I'll gank left lane on my way. Your middle tower is under attack.
Hello, Power.
Enemy missing right. Into your soul.
I'm letting him get too many of his blue buffs.
Into your soul. You have slain an enemy.
Completed.
Into your soul.
The name has spread. It's a disease.
Your left tower is under attack.
I'm not complaining now. I'll try to live up to it. I'm having a good day. Or just a good weekend, I guess. My voice isn't though.
Be right
It's
back.
happening. I'm dying. Even in the SNL games, I had some great fun games.
Gank left lane. On my way. Your left tower is under attack. Your middle tower is under attack.
Oh, that didn't reach me.
Has been slain. Rampage. Shut down. Your left tower is under attack. You have slain an enemy.
They aren't surrendering, but they also have a really good comp to try and get back with. Mainly looking at the Aladdin, but if you deal with Aladdin late game, I don't really see how they can ever really kill me. I'm wildly fed.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Spirit is strong, but your flesh was weak.
Your right tower is under attack. Your right tower is under attack.
That's so tragic. Okay.
Your right tower is under attack.
Don't even waste my ult for this.
Remain.
Gang left lane. On my way.
Oh no, that's gonna spill the end of me. Damn it, dude. Damn it! I actually don't think I should have lost this trade. If I hit my ult on both of them, I win that.
Has been slain.
That's so tragic. After I actually got out, I didn't think they were gonna keep chasing. So that's partly on me. For underestimating that. And I'm gonna need beats in this game, so I'll just start building that. I had Sundrup for them too, but I didn't want to waste it unless I could get a kill out of it.
Destroyed a left enemy tower.
Hopefully I can make it back to my tower before it goes down. Let me make it. No.
Tower is under attack.
Okay, I'll make it. Don't really care about the tower, I just want the TP. I don't want to walk so far.
Enemy spotted.
The enemy team has destroyed the Pyro. Killing spree. Your right tower. Your right tower is under attack. An enemy has been slain.
Remain.
Your team has destroyed the fire tower.
To your soul.
Your left tower is under attack.
Right lane. Group up.
Your left tower has been destroyed.
Enemies in right lane.
An ally has been slain. Your left tower is under attack. An enemy has been slain. Your left tower has been destroyed. Your team has destroyed a right enemy tower. Your left team under attack. Rampage! Killing spree! Double kill! Well, that Phoenix is under attack. An enemy has been slain.
Damn. What a yoink after all my hard work. No, man. Bit ages. Who has ages in a game like this? Man, anything and he dies. Well, anything outside of ages and he dies. That sucks. I got baited by the Neathold a bit. I was thinking we were just gonna go full ham, but I was the only one who went in.
Your right tower is under attack. Oh, an enemy has been slain.
We really do need some wards as well. What actually hurts us that much? It's mainly just Aladdin. Yeah. Just gonna keep getting more defense.
Your team has destroyed the pyramids.
I'm also not that fed anymore, because I keep rotating and farming. Or not farming, rather. I have a lot of kills, but that's it. I'm rich. Not even rich, actually. Dude, what the fuck? Kills don't mean shit. How does Aladdin have 2k more gold than me? He has 6 kills.
Enemy missing right.
Your middle tower is under attack. An ally has been slain. Your team has destroyed the gold.
Sure, we still got gold.
Has been slain.
To your soul.
Unfortunate.
An ally has been slain. An ally has
That's
been
shit.
slain.
Got my Sunder, but I'm not sure I can do much with this. I need my rank 2 ult if I want any chance of stealing this.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Aw, dude. Fuck. My ult didn't go off as well. Something CC'd me. I'm not sure what it was. But that fucking sucks. We just do seem to not have a
Tower is under attack.
great jungler this game.
Your middle tower has been destroyed.
We're against Aladdin. She's not really doing much against him. Fuck me. My throat is dying today.
An enemy has has been destroyed.
This could be really big.
The Pyromancer has arrived. An enemy has been slain. Immortal. Destroyed a middle enemy tower.
Feel the sting of steel.
Your team has destroyed the Pyromancer.
Be careful, middle.
I'll defend left lane.
Your left Phoenix is under attack.
Just push this up a bit. Finally I'm 20, which took way longer than I ever should have.
Group up. An enemy. Slain an enemy.
Ultimate is down.
Your right tower is under attack. Killing spree.
Attack middle lane. I'll defend right
I'll attack
lane.
the Goat Fury.
Your right tower is under attack.
This should be enough. I kind of thought the Achilles was gonna come for me. Or come for this. That's why I went there in the first place. Doesn't really matter if we lose that tower, if we can get more in mid, but
Your team has destroyed the Gold Fury.
Retreat.
gotta back real fast for some wards. What I should have bought instead of Mantle of Discord just yet should have been Nemean. Because Cupid is really starting to hurt, and there's not really much I can build into the Aladdin that will make him hurt less. Like, I need to kind of choose one here, and I feel like I can't stick to the Aladdin anyway,
The Pyro.
but I can stick to the Cupid and make sure that he always dies in these fights.
Enemies behind you. Careful.
I missed. That's bad.
Gang. Enemy spotted. Fire giant.
An enemy.
Huge.
Slain.
On my way.
It sucks we lost Neath there. I decided to stay on fire because that just looked worse and worse. And I don't know why Sol didn't leech it to me. Sol was just tagging it the whole time. That's really, really bad.
Defend middle lane.
That was a... Okay. No, the team beats. No, man, that could have been huge. Shit. Alright, that's very good though. Good job, team.
I would have you
That was huge.
eternally by my side.
Hello, Clino. Yeah, I play once in a while.
Attack the Titan.
I don't really play that much recently. I'm a bit tired of the meta. I'll do some nice stream sessions here and there. But I can't play as much as someone like Nika, who plays, what, like almost 6 hours or 8 hours every day? That's not, dude, I can't do that. Not anymore. I'll do a good, like, 3 or 4 hours, though. We did get a Phoenix, but sucks we couldn't end.
Retreat!
An enemy has been slain. Your right tower is under attack. Your right tower is under attack.
Group up!
On my way.
Enemy spotted! I'm on it! Be careful!
Your team has destroyed the Gold Fury.
Be right back!
Killing spree.
Attack left. Attack left leg. Enemy spotted. Titan.
Let's see,
An enemy
we're going
has
straight
been
for it.
slain. Your right Phoenix is under attack. Destroy the left enemy. Shut down.
Attack the Titan.
You have slain an enemy. Be yourself. An enemy has left the game.
Ended up being way closer than I ever needed to be. Just because of Aladdin and Achilles.
Victory.
Yeah, mages is just weird, man. They've had such a hard time balancing mages in Smite 2. I would say they are playable, but I do think if you meet a good frontline, it's not gonna be playable. But like in your average rank game, I would say it is decently playable. if anything, at least Aladdin is playable. Like, he is still just good, and he's like he's just best in mid in terms of roles. Like, he's definitely more of a mid laner than any other role. Either someone in the last game missed the queue, or they're hella stacked on the enemy team. Do I want to find out? I suppose I will eventually. Well, I don't have a lot of health left here. Oh, and that was the end. Alright. Fucking paused right before the end of the map. Ooh, what is this? Cool. Can I ride it? Oh shit. There are things on top of it. I absolutely can. Nice. I don't know if those are bad or good, but I suppose I am avoiding them for now. I didn't have to go up, did I? Guess I'm okay. Yeah, okay. Damn. Enemy is still picking. For a second I forgot about us. Fucking smite. It's like shit that I got dodge. Oh my god, the speed. Damn.
Select your god.
What is this? Odin Artemis. There's not a lot of front lines that are good at dealing with Odin right now. I have not played a lot of Bellona lately. Maybe we'll do Bellona game. Let's do that. Can you sing a song? I don't sing well, so I don't think so. Well, could I sing a song? Yes. But I don't think any of us want it. Those who do want it will end up regretting it. Let's not do that. Gotta have to wait a bit longer for the Gamehunter karaoke stream. No, dude, it caught up to me. Oh, I still have one more life. Okay, save. I gotta process speed in this one. Momentum. Speed. Damn it, I thought I was Peril Stitch. Shit. So high up. Okay, thank God, I made it. Thank you, Atro. I appreciate it, man. Huh. Do we just not go Sunder this game? Dude, they have our comp. Odin, Ares, Artemis, Poseidon. You want Aegis, Beats, Sunder, Shell, or nothing? At this point, I'm just going Sunder anyway, because it doesn't matter. It won't matter what I go here. What are we looking at?
Annyeong, nice to meet you.
What are we looking at? Do I still just go Mystical Meal? Like, I'm gonna be against Odin. I can't fucking play the game this one.
Enemy
Let's do
spotted.
this. Stay safe in the early game.
Okay? Yes.
Enemy spotted.
Be careful. Gank. Group up. Attack.
Enemies have returned to base.
Play a bit passive and defensive in the early
Minions
starts.
have okay. First, no problem.
Mistakes happen.
Do we just invade theirs now? Nah. Maybe that's a bit greedy. I haven't seen Bud's aspect in a while. I still think it's fine. But fine at best. I need level 2 just for the bludgeon. Otherwise this is kinda ash.
Your left tower is under attack.
Let's grab some rocks.
Be right back.
There's no running from me. Judgment is my domain.
Has been slain.
Enemy spotted. Enemy spotted.
Well, this sucks. My jungler won't be here for this. Guess I'm just gonna have to give it up. That's kind of ass.
Left lane.
Out of mana.
An enemy has been slain.
Yeah, thought as much. Not like he needed to sunder my blue if Nemesis is there.
An ally has been slain.
Drink your mouth.
Alright, man. You can have it, don't worry about it. I'll go do these instead.
That's too bad.
slacking a bit on my rocks here.
Enemy missing right. Be careful.
Dude, I don't even know what to build, to be honest. Just do Golden Blade for now. Probably just followed by... Maybe I will do Mystical Mail.
Your right tower is under attack. An ally has been slain.
There's just always so many people here. Can't fight back.
Enemies have returned to base.
Your left tower is under attack. An enemy has been slain. Your middle tower is under attack. Enemy spotted.
Attack.
An enemy has been slain.
Enemy ultimate down.
Your right tower is under attack.
Enemy missing left.
Killing spree.
Teba.
Come up blue at least. Actually, I can stick around for this, perhaps. Really don't want to back yet.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Kinda want to wait until I can just TP.
The enemy team has destroyed the Gold
Working
Fury.
hard for its own reward. Enemy missing right. Be careful, Widow.
I'm still thinking, but I should maybe do a Mystical Mail. I'm not sure I can play this game much anyway. Well, might as well just go Mystical Mail and try and box Odin a bit. But also attack speed will just be way more useful. I think I'll just do Berserkers actually. The more I think about it, the more Berserkers is better.
Stop that! Enemy missing.
Wait, what is that? Oh, it's probably Spritwin.
Attack left lane.
Spritwin.
Stop that! Yeah.
He also just does too much damage to me at the moment.
An enemy has been slain.
Thanks.
The only way I can probably fight him will be if I just out-heal what he does. So I need attack speed for that.
An ally has
Working
been
hard
slain.
is its own reward. Enemy missing right. Stop that! domain.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Yeah, I can't really do much into that. It's just one of the downsides of Bologna having just absolutely no mobility. Dude.
Is under attack.
I just wish bots would come for blue buffs. That's literally it. Just come for the blue buffs.
Your team has destroyed a middle enemy tower. Your right tower is under attack.
Ultimate is ready.
The Pyromancer has arrived.
Whatever. It would bother me more if it wasn't because I was playing Bologna anyway. And I'll be there for late game as much as, you know, Bologna is gonna be. As long as I'm not too far behind in XP, I'll be fine. I'm just gonna sit on Artemis and Poseidon.
An enemy has been slain.
I'm just surprised, honestly, that Nemesis could tank the tower for that long. Never mind. Dude, they both have Mystical Mail! No shit, they can tank the tower for a million years. Fucking hell.
Be careful left.
Why does she have Mystical Mail? That explains everything, though. No wonder it did no damage to her as well. And while the tower could be tanked for as long as it did. What a classic.
Gank left lane.
On my way.
The fact that we have Bari, though, is very good. It's very bad that we don't have a shell, though. I just noticed that. That is really bad.
Attack! Break your mouth.
An ally has been slain. Slain an enemy.
Justice will rise.
Enemy missing right.
Be careful left. Enemy spotted.
Your middle tower is under attack. An ally has been slain.
Yes. Enemies at the Gold Fury. Have a good time. I'll attack right lane.
It's not like a TP unit if I wanted to. I just don't cool down.
My carry stop for them.
Killing spree.
Have a good
Your
time.
left tower is under attack. Your left tower has been destroyed. An enemy has been slain. Your left tower is under attack.
Let me get this. I'm willing to die for this shit.
Fire consume my enemies.
Damn it! Fuck, man. I did think I was gonna get it too. That sucks. Of all the people getting the kill, though, Ares is probably just the best one. I'll get that tower at any point now, at least. It's just kind of there to be taken. But oh boy, could we use some warts on the map as well. Odin is just so fed. Nemesis doing every blue for me, evading every blue, while bots hasn't really been rotating for them is rough. Just meant I felt further behind as well.
Enemy missing right.
Help, middle lane.
Okay.
Help, middle lane.
On my way.
Ultimate is ready.
Your middle
I mean, they should be
tower
really
is
big.
under attack. Shut down. Your middle tower is under attack. Triple kill. Killing spree. Shut down. Deicide.
Shouldn't have looked for the Odin. I thought Odin was going to be hard to finish off, so I went for the Odin at first. Should have just gone to the Artemis. Tragic. That was a really good fight. That kind of turned a bit... It turned even. I find we should have won. That turned super even. When we should have just easily finished off both
Your
of them.
team has destroyed a left enemy tower. Your middle tower is under attack.
You called that damage? Hit
Enemies
me.
in the right jungle.
It's back. Buy some shit. I have one job this game. It will just be to sit on Artemis. I'll go super anti-ADC this game. Do the one thing Bologna is good at.
Enemy missing right.
The enemy team has destroyed the gold fury.
Attack.
On my way. Behind us.
An enemy has been
Odin's behind you guys.
An enemy has been slain.
Attack fire giant. Ultimate is ready. Attack.
It's blood. There's no running from me.
Speeds at least.
Has been slain.
Oh, we're really dashing in here, boys.
Double kill. An enemy has been slain.
I'm really trying not to fight in these fights, or just try to go for the targets that I can stick to, but it's tough.
Attack on my attack.
Huge. Good pyro.
Strike is all I need.
An enemy has been slain.
The guilty always fall. Judgment is
Damn, we're not looking behind us.
nowhere to run. Nowhere
If Bar turned, the Nemesis just dies.
An ally has been slain.
Be careful, middle.
An enemy has been slain. Your middle tower is under attack.
The anti-melee combo they have is it's fucking annoying, man. I can stick to Artemis only if I have my beats or my ult up. I can only, well, not even really. I don't think my ult even negates the boar. Dude, Balone is just so ass. What am I supposed to do in this game? Why did I pick Balone in the first place? What have I done?
Enemy spotted.
At least that was a good ult though, just for peeling. So I can negate the boar by ulting. I'll just have to time it well. We'll see what happens then.
Gank left lane. Ultimate is down.
Enemy missing right.
Let's get level 20 here. Fucking finally.
Attack. Enemy spotted.
On my way. You called that damage? Hit me.
Dude, you actually just plucked her away from me. Damn. Kill denied. That's not for me.
Break your mouth. Time to get active. You called that damage?
Your middle
Hit
tower
me.
is under attack. Your middle tower has been destroyed. An ally has been slain.
Any backline peelers in chat?
Enemy has been slain.
Any backliners?
Your middle tower is under attack. Your middle tower.
Dude, bots go home, man.
Killing spree.
Bots, just go away, men. I'm trying to get you out.
Sorry.
Defend the Gold Fury.
Don't know why I stayed. You wouldn't have to kill the Odin. Odin he's way too much effort to kill. And all we really need to do about him is wait until he jumps in a team fight and turn on him and one-shot him as a team rather than just us chasing him down here. Oh, this is not good, boys. Oh, dude, no, he ran into the trap. Oh. No, man.
The enemy team has destroyed the Gold Fury.
It's just starting to look a bit cooked. I'll do Prit one last, I think.
been slain.
Dude, can we just group and stop dying? We actually have a very legit chance of winning this. The game is very even. They're a bit ahead in gold, but one team fight and we get fire, or vice versa, and can probably just end.
Fight me! On my way! The guilty always fall. My domain.
Tank Nemesis, man, this sucks. I'm really good into Nemesis, but she's tank, which actually just makes her better. Okay. And Barry died with ult up. Tragic.
The enemy team has destroyed the fire giant.
I do feel like I shouldn't be top damage though, because I'm having a real fucking hard time actually going in these fights. That was the only fight I feel like I actually did a lot of damage.
Is under attack.
Hopefully you saw... Dude, we don't have an ADC either. Shit.
Your middle phoenix is under attack.
Oh yeah.
Your middle phoenix has been destroyed.
Shit. They're running away with a lead now.
Your left tower is under attack. Your left tower has been destroyed.
Attack, attack.
Ward here.
We really just didn't push up left.
Defend left lane. I'm on it.
They're still a fire. We do need to respect them a bit. That's good. I do think we're just kind of struggling a bit. It feels like we can't damage the Odin that much. But we just can't kill him as fast as they can kill our backline.
Tower is under attack.
And as a result, I do feel like we're struggling.
Why are you fighting 4v5? Did you skip education?
Your right tower is under attack. Your right tower has
What
Were you
education?
guys in the school like easy maths? 4v5 and you're gambling. We're not in Vegas.
Some people wish they were.
Why do you skip evolution?
Damn. We really skipped evolution over here, man. Saul is not even attacking him. What do you mean? Go fight. This dude's anti-fighting at all. This dude's a pacifist. I don't ask him to dive the Titan. I just want him to attack the tanks if Sobek blocks them.
The enemy team has destroyed the Gold Fury.
Enemy ultimate down! Enemy ultimate down!
An ally has been slain.
Way to go.
Middle lane.
Cancel that. Enemies in right lane. It's fine. Defend left lane. Yes.
Your left Phoenix is under attack.
Time to get active.
Immortal! Your left Phoenix is under attack. Your left Phoenix has been destroyed.
Damn, we really just lost that 3v3 back there.
Your middle Phoenix is under attack. Your middle Phoenix has been destroyed.
Hey, do you skip education again? I'm defending 1v5.
There's two people in
Okay,
right,
I
man.
missed-
You
I
guys
missed-
lost that
okay,
3v3
I
on
missed
your
my
own.
ult. Okay, but why are you missing being teammates?
It was a 2v2 and a 3v3. We all lost.
Why
It
are you
is what it
playing
is.
video games?
Why do you play video games? What kind of question is that?
Hey, you're not. You can't be serious, man. You can't be serious. Honestly, honestly. I have education dodgers in my team.
Dude, I don't even want to talk to this guy with a build like that. Like, what is this? You have 0 damage in this build. Well, actually, it's not that bad once he puts the ring in there, but that's a huge gamble to make sure that you have enough power in these first 3 items to do anything. Don't worry, I'm not listening to him, I'm just... He's not wrong in that we should definitely stay as 5, but he's really optimistic to think we have any chance as 5v5 than we do as 3v3 or 2v2. I think taking the 2v2 chance for us and right was way more important, because if we actually win that, we get a Phoenix, they can't keep pushing, and we are actually on an even playing ground, rather than taking the 5v5 that we will absolutely just lose. I do not see us winning that. He's 20 more viewers than me. Damn, man. That's also fine. Like, it's not a judge of character. It's more like, if you think that's a bad call, I think he's just simply wrong. Because that call was fine. I think we just fucked it up, me and the Bari. I think we should win against Artemis and Nemesis in a 2v2. No, I don't want to trade. I don't fuck play support. I do want to try and get solo though. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. I think we had very low chances of winning that game either way. They just had better players than we did. And better gods, I would say. I'm borderline useless on something like Bologna unless I'm sitting on Artemis, and if Artemis plays it well, she can still get away from me. Dude, what are all these bans? How are we banning Thor now?
Your god.
And why is Kai just AFK? Trade me solo, man. Cabrakan is fucking open. Sopik is fucking open. Give me support or solo at this point. Dude, I actually want to dodge this one. This is the first game I felt like dodging in a while. Ain't no way you want me to play into a comp like that. They might straight up just pick Cabrak and Sopik and we're so fucked. How could we ever pick into that or play into that? To Odin Chuck. Wasn't the front lines I was thinking of, but fair enough. That's still really, really annoying to deal with. fast enough. That was fun, was it? My team was probably not having the greatest time, according to comms. Myself was very upset. I didn't know, but I think I skipped evolution. Oh, it unlocks like a new map, basically. That's cool. Ooh. Cool. It's gonna be nice with some scenery change, because been looking at that grass area for a while now. Damn, I meant to miss ass. Let's fix that a bit. I haven't seen that Poseidon's name before either. It's not that bad. Or he's not bad, I should say, at all. He played quite well, considering he's playing a pick that is not very prioritized, but I do think is good. Yeah, do they have a broken duolane? I don't like it.
Fabulous choice.
Hey, good luck, Achilles. Yeah, I didn't have a whole lot of fun that game as fucking Bologna. I don't know why I picked it. I just felt like playing something different for once. And like overall, it went fine. Like I was top damage even on my team, which I honestly feel like I definitely should not have been, especially with us having a Bari and a Sol. But it's Odin jungle. Well, thank God I went on her. Goddamn. They have a really scary comp if they get a lead, but if they fall behind, Odin jungle just won't be able to do much. Kai, why you AFK? So hard today.
Minions have
Help
spawned.
left lane.
Later. Cancel that.
That's too
Later.
bad.
Should have paused earlier, but it's kind of late for that now.
Yes.
Oh, it's good support.
Your left tower is under attack.
See ya.
That wasn't my intention.
You have slain an enemy. Your left tower is under attack. An enemy has been slain.
We're building leads, boys. We're building leads.
That's too bad.
Gank right lane. Attack!
Didn't even need the jungler. He exploded.
An ally has been slain.
Like music to my ears.
Thought Impel was gonna reach. You got beats.
Your left tower is under attack. An ally has been slain. Your middle tower is under attack. An ally has been slain. Retreat! Your left tower is under attack. An enemy has been slain. Retreat! Retreat right lane.
Man, we got 2 5s, the 3-3. Why are we not invading this? Tragic.
Your left tower is under attack.
Still, I mean, if jungle shows up, but like, I'm pretty sure Ymir wasn't left, so at least it wasn't gonna be her a little bit. Oh, is Kai just DCing again?
I will be right back. Your left tower is under attack. Enemy missing right. Enemy missing right. Retreat right lane.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Slain an enemy. Your left tower is under attack. Help middle lane, no problem. Your middle tower is under attack.
You know what they need to add in the VGS? They need to add it. Please chill.
Tower is under attack.
Please chill. I want to say that so often. Deep breaths, my boy. Deep breaths. Get that heart rate down.
An ally has
No
been
Odin is
slain.
around. We have quiet, but that's kind of, you know, that could be a bit aggressive, you know?
Your left tower is under attack.
Especially because the characters are often saying it in kind of like a, you know, like shut up kind of way. It's like quiet.
Your
Be
left
quiet.
tower is under attack.
Whereas, like, I need like a calm down type thing. That isn't calm down, because people seem to get very triggered by this phrase these days. Calm down? What do you mean calm down? Just be chill, boys. Be chill. Alright? Everything's fine.
An enemy has been slain.
Dude, stop doing that. Thank you.
Your left tower is under attack.
Take care of
Rampage.
me.
Fabulous choice.
He doesn't have the damage to fight me at the moment. I'll just take my chances and jump. The only real like risk is if someone else is nearby, because I can definitely get.
Your left tower is under attack. Your right tower is under attack. An enemy has been slain. No problem. Your left tower is under attack. Your left tower has been destroyed.
Actually, what do I need for this? Oh yeah, that's good. Let's grab this. Now he won't be able to fight me for a little while.
Killing spree. Enemy missing right. Your right tower is under attack. An ally has been slain.
Attack middle lane. Attack middle lane.
I'm going for jungle.
Wanna invade this?
Enemy spotted.
I am weak for where?
Your left tower is under attack.
Follow me.
Gank middle lane.
Okay. Retreat. Retreat.
I cannot help.
Okay.
Help, right lane.
Has been slain where you have slain an enemy.
Hope you're ready.
It's just a bit forced. Like, I don't think we need to force shit like that.
Your left tower is under attack. Retreat. Killing spree, son. Your right tower is under attack.
Okay.
We just outmanned.
An enemy has been slain. What do you say today? Not today. Beware the shifting sands.
Okay.
Killing spree.
Okay.
Nice goal.
What do you want from me, man? I can't fucking save you at 1 HP.
left lane.
Aw, man. Just lost all the buffs here too. Shit.
An ally has been slain.
Attack left lane.
Damn. Ripped the huge lead I had. Still got a lead on her specifically at least.
Enemy missing.
Have fun.
See if I
I
can
know I will.
bridge the gap a bit more again.
Help middle lane. On my way.
Shut down. Your middle tower is under attack. An ally has been
I think it's just a
slain.
skill diff overall in this one. Fenrir doesn't support, which is fair. I mean, what are you gonna do about someone who's just off-rolling and not really sure what to do necessarily?
Beware the shifting sand.
But I do not know what Hercules is up to.
Your
He just
team
seems
has
confused.
Destroyed a left enemy tower.
And he's just one of those who needs to blame someone else for their mistakes, or his own mistakes. Otherwise he just can't keep on going.
Beware the shifting sands.
We don't have Fenrir ult.
Beware the shifting sands.
Spotted.
On my way. Attack. Attack the gold fury.
Got a man up. Beware the shifting sands. Beware the shifting sands. An enemy has been slain.
I think I'm good. We got Odin in the end. Dude, the anti-attack speed on Chuck there completely saved Odin. I couldn't fucking attack.
I will not be killed so easily.
Sick Hold of the Lamb extension. It's old, man. I love that game, but I never ended up streaming it. But that's a great fucking game. I love that game.
That wasn't my intention.
No problem. Your right tower is under attack.
Still got an XP lead.
An ally has been slain.
Poseidon's here. Fuck.
Enemy missing left.
Isn't he mid? He is. What the fuck is he here?
Enemy missing right. You have slain an enemy. Your right tower is under attack.
I mean, I can't follow.
Your left
It's in the fucking tower, man.
Beware the shifting sand. Your ally has been slain. Shut down. Not to
We just keep going in for no reason, man. I'm lucky that I actually survived the times so far that he called, and we just get super rotated on. Usually when someone calls, let me try and go into my mindset when someone calls something for me. That I also know. I expect them to know that it's a good call. But so far, there is no credence to these calls being good. It's just completely random, and we're getting so shit on because of it. So there's no disrespect to Kai himself. It's just, in this game, I need to stay fit. Because I feel like a lot of our damage needs to come from me, especially because they have Odin, Chug, Ymir frontline. I cannot fall behind. It's very crucial that me, in my job as ADC here, is not falling behind. So I'm gonna try and do exactly that. Or I'll just listen to my gut feeling. Because everything right there, after we killed Bari just for free, screamed it was a bad call going for the Poseidon. So, I should have potentially just gotten out. That's also on me. I don't want to blame him just for that.
Game.
beware the shifting sand. Your team has destroyed the pyromancer. Onslaught into the breach. Okay. Beware the shifting sand. An ally has been slain. Cancel that. Beware the shifting sands.
We got that, that's good.
Enemy missing right.
Retreat. Behind us. Retreat. On
Just
my
show
way.
presence.
Behind us. Behind us. Behind us.
Just get out, we gotta go for free. If I'm the only one who dies for that, that's fine.
Retreat.
If more people die, they get fire, so... It's a good kill. Dude, the soul damage, huge. Huge soul damage. I don't think they can do fire just because of that. Yeah, they're not on it. That's good.
Retreat.
On my way.
Help middle lane. Hello from the Alpha.
Dude. I wish Hercules would just attack. It's good that we end up getting fire here. We killed both of them, we get fire for free without losing anything, you know? But whatever. I'll take the trade, even though it sucks that I'm not getting fire here. I think Herg is just, at this point, mad because he blames me for dying twice early on. When you could have avoided it yourself. There's not really much I can do about that. Actually, maybe I get this first. Let's get that protection. And that first hit, first nice big chunk of Warrior's Axe damage.
An enemy has been slain.
Attack middle lane. Group up.
Attack the Gold Fury.
Cancel that. Attack middle tower.
We can push as well. I think getting gold for free though just makes more sense. It's not like it takes time to fucking kill it.
Group up. Attack.
Enemy missing right. An enemy has been slain. Your team has destroyed a middle enemy tower. Rampage! Have slain an enemy.
Attack the Titan.
Beware the shifting side. An enemy has been slain. Goodbye.
Victory.
Can I sneak in? I can sneak in one last. That's gonna have to be my last though. Yeah, I mean, Sol did really well this game too. Like, Sol probably ended up winning. I think maybe I carried the early game with how much I was controlling my lane, but I think Sol probably carried the mid and late just because of how she was able to just poke them as much as she was, so they couldn't go fire after they basically wiped us. If it wasn't for that, we would have probably ended up losing, to be honest. Dude, I don't know anyone on my team. Hello? It's been a while since I've had a game like that. Still haven't seen Ragnar not go 0-10. Poor Ragnar. Ragnar usually, if he's against me, I feel like, and I'm playing solo, he always just super shits on my duo lane. He really does. I think Ragnar is quite good. Dude, there's too much shit to ban. Do I end with an Aladdin game? I haven't played Aladdin in a while. It might be really sloppy, but I really do feel like playing Aladdin. It's gonna be really unfun if I meet something like Ares. I don't want to play Aladdin this game. Oh, they picked Athena. Never mind. It's all fine. I can play Aladdin, guys.
Your god.
Actually. I do need to give up most of my early game for it, though. Am I willing to do that? Sure. Fuck it. Why not? I want to play Aladdin. This might go horribly wrong, though. I feel like the last few times I've gone Aladdin, it's been just terrible. I either fuck it up myself somehow, or I'm just getting super counterpicked. Because they still could do that. They could absolutely still just lock in a Wheelix and make my life miserable. If they do that, I might just go tank. And say, please pull me. I don't mind. No, actually, some of their names are changing now. I do recognize Red Panda. I don't remember much, though. It's not a player I've seen much, but it's a name I've seen before. I do think you're right. I think Fire Eagle is someone I've seen before as well, but I guess I'll rephrase. Like, at least the ones on my team, I don't have any recent recognition of in my games. So I do not know if they're good or bad. Or nice, or well, the opposite of nice. But I suppose I'll find out. Medusa. There's been some interesting picks today in my games. People must be tired of the usual meta picks. People are just playing Medusa Poseidon now. Fucking Nuwa. Speaking of, am I against Nuwa? It's gotta be Nuwa or Poseidon, right?
Aladdin.
If it's Poseidon, it might be real rough. That's definitely the worst thing I could meet on that team, I think. But I don't think it's bad. Because he doesn't have insanely good clear, so I actually might be able to win the early game. Oh, I missed it. Over against... man, they have a really annoying comp here. I think actually I'm gonna risk and go Aegis. Start with Chronos Pendant.
Tokens and tinctures to add to my collection.
Same guy. Purple Orb. We lost. Actual Impact Calvin. Okay. Calvin support. I don't feel like I see that much in ranked. He always plays a different role. At least in my games. I played so much Aladdin when he came out. But I've been slacking so hard on it recently. I don't think I've played him since my servers were really bad all the time. That's partly why I stopped playing him, because he's so unplayable on bad servers. You can't AA cancel at all. Then what's the point? Just makes poly ass on him.
Minions have spawned.
And then he's just no fun to play.
most unfortunate.
Oh, this Poseidon. It's the same guy too. So this guy just likes Poseidon, I guess.
Your middle tower is under attack.
But of all the things to meet, I would much rather deal with a Poseidon than something like, obviously, Kibraken or Chuck.
Most unfortunate.
Give me the rocks. I like my rocks.
Your right tower is under attack. Your middle tower is under attack. First blood. An ally has been slain. An ally has been slain. Your left tower is under attack.
Oh,
Okay,
well,
no
shit.
problem. Enemies have returned to base.
Be careful, right?
Okay, no problem.
Your left tower is under attack.
Okay.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I expected, to be honest with you. And I also lost my blue down there. Like,
Enemy spotted. Help. Completed.
I'm fine with this. He just goes anyway.
Enemy ultimate down.
Alright. Fuck it. I'm back. I kind of want to try lifesteal build.
Enemy spotted. Enemy ultimate down.
Enemy missing left. Follow them.
An ally has been slain.
Recall.
I keep forgetting my rocks. This isn't good. I've been really slacking on my rock maxing here.
Be careful middle. Enemy missing.
It's actually so bad.
Recall.
under attack.
No, I fucked that up like an idiot, man. I should have ulted first and then I just wasted my wish. Dude, Poseidon also does way more damage than I expect him to. The Trident does so much damage, and I don't think he's leveling it first. But that shit fucking hurts. Oh yeah, my wish did go off in time as well. Well, fucking rip. That's my power wish.
Your last tower is under attack.
How unexpected.
Slay an enemy.
Glad I was still able to get that kill at least.
Most unfortunate. Thanks.
Would have sucked if Motrid got it. I really needed it.
Your right tower is under attack.
Record! Enemy ultimate down!
Be careful, middle. Enemy missing right.
Your right tower is under attack.
Enemy spotted.
Enemy missing. On my way.
An enemy has been slain. An enemy has been slain.
Right
Ah,
on.
good work.
It's a nice gank.
Board.
Goodbye. No problem.
Sound.
No problem. Enemy ultimate incoming.
We need board.
On my way, gank right lane.
On my way.
It's just not really good anymore. Oh well.
Defend the gold.
Record! Enemy
The
missing
enemy
left.
team has destroyed the gold. An enemy has been slain.
Record!
Most unfortunate.
Let's go!
On my way.
You have slain an enemy.
Huge. I was kind of betting on him ulting me instantly.
Record! On my way!
Attack right lane.
Come on then!
Your middle tower is under attack. Killing spree. right tower is under attack.
I actually forgot. I wanted to do a completely different thing this game. I wanted to do Chronos Pendant because I hadn't done that before. But I don't think I can allow myself to do that now that I'm in Soul Gem. Just too many other important items to build.
Enemy missing middle.
Enemy missing
Be
left.
careful right. Enemy missing middle.
Record.
Okay. An ally has been slain.
Enemy missing left.
An ally has been slain.
The fuck? I'm actually gonna see if I can make this in time. No, everything's just dead already. Maybe.
An ally has been slain.
Whatever.
To me.
Your left tower is under attack. Your right tower is under attack.
To me. Follow them.
Your right tower has been destroyed.
On my way.
An enemy has been slain.
Attack.
Your middle tower is under attack. Attack fire giant. Your left tower
Enemy
is under
missing left.
attack.
I'll do Chronos Pendant anyway. I really want to try it. I think I can fit it in anyway. The only thing I might end up lacking is pen, but against their
Your
comp,
team
I'm
has
not really sure I'm gonna
destroyed
need
the
pen
pyramids.
anyway.
Your team has destroyed a middle enemy tower.
Record.
Maybe I can compromise and go for something like a Doom Warp or something.
To me, Genie. Enemy missing left. To me, Genie. Into the left. Right.
An ally has been slain. Killing spree.
No, Sunder! Oh, I am a lucky son of a bitch.
Has been slain.
Absolutely calculated, I mean. Safe. Oh, the new ult. Woohoo! I'm lucky. That didn't reach. That sucks.
To me, Genie. Follow them.
Guess me and his army just gonna lane swap a bit.
That is most unfortunate.
To me.
Killing spree. Woohoo! Your middle tower is under attack. Killing spree.
Okay.
Your team has destroyed a left enemy tower. Record. Shut down.
Oh well.
Record.
Your left tower is under attack. Your team has destroyed a right. And your middle tower is under attack.
Cancel that.
Okay.
Enemies at the Gold Fury.
Your left tower has
Completed.
been destroyed. The Pyromancer has arrived. An ally has been slain. Rampage! Your left tower is under attack.
He does it beats. I'm really confused because he could just beat me. Let's rotate over and help. Actually, never mind. Don't think I can help anyway.
Your team has destroyed
Huge.
the Gold
Your
Fury.
output exceeds expectations.
Save yourself.
An ally has been slain. An ally has been slain. An enemy has been slain.
Projection deployed.
No, man! I hate it. I could have just gotten out. I got greedy. I wanted the style points. Instead, I'm now the clown. Shit, man. That went so well too, but then me and Vulcan died as well. So the trade was even, but we got gold, so still won the trade in the end. But just
Your
silly
left
of me.
tower is under attack.
I'll save my revive for a bigger death. No, screw you, Impact. I can't believe you caught my dash.
We need wards.
Why can't I see? I couldn't see Mordred, that was weird. I was trying to spectate the Mordred. I guess because it was ulting or something?
Be right back.
Enemy spotted.
An enemy has been slain.
Enemies in left lane.
Double kill.
Ah, whoops.
On my way.
Okay, well that fucking glitched.
Attack.
So you cannot jump over the weird door.
Destroyed the fire tower. Shut down. Behind us. You have slain an enemy.
Eternally by my side.
I'm misplaying the last few fights a bit. Kinda stop doing that.
Record.
Does Chronos Pendant affect my passive?
Attack. the Gold Fury.
A little something extra, just in case the genie is busy.
Does anyone actually know that?
Record!
Your team has destroyed the Gold Fury.
To me, genie! Follow them!
Your left tower is under attack.
This happened with...
That was just unexpected. I guess they had a ward on me. Rip. Oh. Could be a huge Vulcan ult, but it's down. Tragic. Dude, mages don't do any damage.
Completed.
He does have Jade Scepter though. I guess that makes a bit sense. He doesn't have a whole lot of power in his build.
I'll defend the flame.
Maybe that's not true. Jade Scepter does have a lot of power. Maybe it's just a pen. Because he went totems. Kind of build it up. It doesn't? Okay. I mean, I don't think it should either. It would be way too powerful. If cooldown affected it.
Your team has destroyed the Pyramid.
I'm gonna go look for Medusa. Should be pretty easy kill for me. This is a long jump.
To me, genie! Follow them! On my way! Tokens and features to add to my
Your middle
collection.
tower is under attack.
Help middle lane!
On my way. Be careful.
An ally has been slain.
To me, genie!
An ally has been slain.
To me!
An ally has been slain.
If she was in earlier, that sucks, man.
Double kill. Okay. Killing spree.
Not for me.
Deicide.
Yes.
So normal CDR works. It screams just 15, while it is 12. Let's see, does it actually say anything on... I'm not allowed to expand or collapse. Yeah, no, that doesn't even work. I can't scroll down.
On my way!
An ally has been slain.
Dude, no way they fucking Poseidon and just knew I was just waiting there. Fuck. I could kill them too. I just couldn't fucking use anything.
Tower is under attack.
Couldn't dash. That sucks, man. And I'm guessing it wasn't even for me. It was for the my boys fighting on top of my fucking lamp.
Your right tower is under
And I
attack.
think it actually isn't.
Your middle tower
She's not
is
tanky
under
to me,
attack.
actually. I just realized. Yeah, she's Nemean and Mystical. The only protection she has against me is Predwin. She's building something now, though.
Your
But
left tower is under attack. Your right tower is under attack.
let's go, Mordred. Oh, I missed 3. That sucks.
Your right tower.
We really
is
didn't
under
get her.
attack.
That sucks, man. And we're losing people for it.
An ally has been slain.
I'm willing to sacrifice myself for a kill here. If I need to. My only worry this game is Calvin and this Athena, because anyone I go on will just be Athena ulted.
An ally has been slain. Be careful. Follow me.
Completed.
An enemy. Double kill.
Ah,
An enemy has been slain.
he was too fast. My cooldown not low enough to get away. I guess fuck it. Let's use this shit.
Defend middle lane. Your middle tower is under attack. An
He's just
enemy
dead already.
has been slain.
Well, now I feel like I wasted it.
Your left tower is under attack. Your team has destroyed the Gold Fury. The Pyromancer.
Let's just
has
get left as
arrived.
well.
Your team has destroyed a right enemy tower.
More rocks.
Your right tower is under attack. An ally has been slain. Your right tower is under attack. An enemy has been slain.
I
was a Nua behind as well.
Double kill.
Completed.
Deicide. Your middle tower is under attack. Your right Phoenix is under attack.
They're just in our own jungle. I'm so surprised we don't have enough wards to even know that. I guess we actually lose off of that. Unless Poseidon can get up in time. Because we're definitely losing 2 Phoenixes. That's so surprising. Luo was just randomly behind. Poseidon and Medusa was on our red buff. Like, that's crazy.
Your Titan's under attack.
I guess we can't even defend. Tragic. Oh well. I think the biggest problem this game, though, was that both Izanami and Mordred kept getting picked somewhere. So we were always one man down in these fights. That was a bit tough to play around. But I thought that was a pretty decently fun game. I had fun. Alright, that's gonna be it for me though, guys. I need to walk the dog, make some dinner, do all the usual stuff. But thank you guys for watching as always, I really appreciate it. I will find someone to raid as well. Is there anyone actually streaming today, guys? What are we looking at? I can't just throw you over to Scream. Just do that.